Welcome to Unbreak Marketing. Today I have Garrett Jestice here with me. He's the founder of Prelude Marketing, and he's going to talk to us about understanding whether positioning is unclear in your marketing engine and what consequences that might have and how you might fix it. So Garrett, what are the ways someone could know if in their marketing engine the positioning was unclear?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first, thanks for having me. It's great to chat about this stuff. I can talk about this stuff all day. To answer your question, I think one of the biggest things is go take a look at your website, right? And one of the things I like to do is what's called a clarity test. So take your website, just the header, the H1 on your website, show it to someone, anyone, neighbor, a friend, a relative, whoever, for 5 to 10 seconds, and then pull it away and ask them, what does this company do? Who's it for, right? Why does it matter? And if they can't answer even semi-close to what you actually do, you have a clarity problem. I see this as a problem with so many different companies, especially earlier stage companies, right? Where they're still trying to figure out how do I communicate this? And it's such a problem that every company faces as they continue to grow too.
Yeah, absolutely. So these are real things that I think a majority of smaller companies have a problem with. If they recognize this is a problem, maybe they've tried something like this with their friends and they know that their positioning is unclear. What are the costs to them? In other words, they've got a lot of things they could work on. What are the costs of leaving your messaging unclear?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's a lot of studies out there that kind of support this. I was looking up before we jumped on this call, a couple of stats that I think are interesting. Listen to this. So over half of visitors to websites on average spend less than 15 seconds on the website before deciding whether to stay or leave. You can see that in your own data when you look at the bounce rate on your website. If people don't automatically get what you do, you're not even in the consideration set. You really have that 5 to 10 seconds to really communicate your core value and what you do and make someone get it before they decide, hey, this is for me or it's not for me. So when you think about that and you start to extrapolate that and thinking about what the impact could be for tight, clear positioning and messaging versus unclear, right? It starts to get pretty large, especially as you continue to grow traffic to your website and do more and more marketing. Usually your website is the core touch point, conversion touch point for a lot of what you do. And so again, if someone can understand that really quick, all of a sudden you start extrapolating what that looks like as more and more visitors come to that site, right? And that can be a massive impact for a lot of businesses, even small businesses, right? In terms of leads, in terms of revenue lost, because they just can't understand what you do.
Absolutely. I think if you're running any kind of paid ad campaigns, you're wasting spend. People do go to your site and they can't figure it out, they're gone. And then you lost your chance there. So huge add to the spend.
One more stat I want to share with you. 70% of buying decisions are made before the prospect talks to a salesperson. So even if you have a salesperson, you say, it doesn't really matter, we're just going to get them on the call with a salesperson, right? Yeah, that's important as well. But 70+% of that decision has already been made, right? They're going to search for you online, whether in your ad, whether reviews, whether your website, whatever. And so you got to make sure that you show up and are clear about what you do in those touch points.
Also really important, if your salesperson has a different view of what your position is, they could certainly confuse a potential client coming in right up front and give them that negative opinion. So clear on your website and then align it across your go-to-market team. Let's say somebody recognizes this is a big problem. I probably have it in my marketing engine. What are some steps that you could do to start to fix it?
I just spoke at an event a couple of weeks ago on this topic. And I think your homepage is where you do the majority of your communication for your core positioning. What do we do? Who are we for? What value do we actually provide? And so there's a couple of different components when it comes to this big, broad world of messaging. If you really start at the highest level, really it's about what's your point of view? Why does your solution exist? So your point of view is rooted in some problem that your company solves, right? You probably saw some problem with other solutions out there and therefore launched a product or a service to help address that. So you have an inherent point of view that's rooted in that problem that you solve. So that's the highest level. When you go one layer lower, it's really positioning. And positioning is where you choose to play. It's strategic decisions about who you'll serve. It's about the value that you provide. And so what do you actually do? Who are you for? The value that you provide to them. Those are the kind of key strategic decisions. What makes you different from the competitive alternatives? And then you go one layer deeper and it's really messaging. And messaging is just, what do you say? So once you understand where you're playing with positioning, messaging is, how do you communicate your core value to your best audience. That's things like your value proposition, your benefits, the features that reinforce those benefits and ladder up to that value proposition. And then at the very bottom is really a copy. And copy is really how you say it. Really good copywriters can change the same core message based on your brand, based on who your audience is and what they would care most about, based on the channel. So the copy is going to be really different in an ad versus on your website. That's really how I like to think about it. And if you can nail those core things, it's not a lot. It's 4 core things with a couple of sub bullets underneath each one. But your point of view, your positioning, your messaging, and then your copy, that's really what it comes down to, is if you can nail that stuff, you can clearly communicate your value to your audience on your website, in your sales pitch, across all marketing touch points.
Excellent. Garrett has a wonderful LinkedIn post where he shows some examples of how to go through this, gives examples of the 4 points that he just went through and how you might work through those. So definitely go follow Garrett on LinkedIn. And Garrett, if people want to connect with you more besides LinkedIn, is there another way that they should reach out?
Yeah, so I have a newsletter too. That's a great way to connect with me and see some of the stuff that I'm talking about, thinking about. It's called GTM Foundations, Go-to-Market Foundations. It's on Substack. So I'd love to have you, follow me there. And if you're ever interested, feel free to reach out via LinkedIn, via my website. My website, you mentioned at the beginning, my company's name is Prelude Marketing. So it's preludemarketing.com, right? You're welcome to reach out. Happy to chat about all this stuff. I could talk about this stuff for days.
So now you know the problem, how to identify it in your organization, what the costs are, and how to fix it.